In today's session, we'll be discussing one of the most important economic and strategic challenges of our time, the steep decline of global oil and gas fields and what it means especially for India. We'll also see how this impacts prices, imports and growth and the step that India needs to take from maintaining strategic reserves to renewable energy to protect its future. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. Today when we are going to talk about International Energy Agency's report, we also need to understand its implication on developing economies with special reference to India. So let us start with understanding that how come the global fields in terms of oil and gas are declining fast. So if we look at this given data, that shows the global energy mix that would be in front of us by 2050. One thing that should be striking your eye is the fact that how the contribution of natural gas, coal and oil is showing a rapid decline. It is not only the mark that shows the shift towards the cleaner energy, but also the fact that these reserves are declining fast. And this can be very well understood by the IEA report that has come to fore, which clearly highlights one plain simple thing, that the decline rates of especially oil fields and gas fields have accelerated sharply. So if we look at the categories of oil fields, when we are talking about shale oil and tight oil, we have found that their production is declining by 35% in the first year. If you talk about Europe, it is more than 15%, and Middle East, it is almost 2% decline that we are seeing, and which clearly highlights the fact that as of now it seems like that the supply is on a treadmill. Why we are saying on a treadmill? Because treadmill will show you the fact that even though you are moving on it, you are still in the very same position. Why we are saying this? We are saying this because whatever investment is being made, it is basically being required to offset the natural decline that is taking place. The investment is not going in the direction where we are able to increase the production or where we are able to increase the reserves to channel in terms of production itself. If we talk about production, in the recent times you have seen that the decline has been more than 5.5 million barrels per day that have been seen. Apart from that, if we talk about gas, there has been a decline again, and the whole problem here is even if we find new reserves, there is a long lead time that takes it from a reserve being found and the production actually starting to almost 20 years. So that is why that also highlights the fact that even if we are able to find new reserves, to bring it into actual production, that is going to take a long time. And if at this point of time we are not channelizing investment towards reserves and production, then major markets would remain undersupplied by 2030. And when we are talking about oil being constrained, it will have so much impact all across the globe, but more so on the developing economies as well as India. So now let us move to understand that how this scenario that has been put forward by IEA report is going to impact the developing economies directly, because IEA has highlighted that the most spending that is happening in oil and gas field reserves, that is only keeping the present supply, it is not enhancing it. When we are talking about the limited gas reserves or the declines, increased declines that we are seeing, how it can impact developing economy. The first and most obvious impact that we are going to see would be in terms of the increased prices. Why increased prices? Because the demand is ever increasing, because if we want development, major important fuel of development is the oil. In our economy, we are still dependent on non-renewable energy resources, coal being the most important one. Can you tell me in the comment section that how much of energy production till this date comes from coal? So the demand is increasing, but as we have seen, the supply is pretty much same, or it will see a steeper decline. In this scenario, only one obvious outcome that is increase in price. For example, let's just say there are only 2 sellers that are present in the economy and they are having limited cartons of milk. Then people who want milk, they want to buy milk, they are more than that. So let's just say there are 10 cartons which are present in the market and people who are there to buy 20. So people who can afford to pay more, they will be ready to pay more, and that will push the prices high. This is the basic law of demand that is present in front of us. Now this increased price will also bring in supply risk and supply shocks. When supply risk and supply shocks will come in, they will also bring in higher import cost spikes which we'll be seeing, and this will directly impact the deficit of that particular economy. It will increase the forex costs of that economy, and it will also deplete the forex reserves which are present in the economy. Now when we are talking about increased basic goods cost, including fuel, where we see there is a possibility of heightened price. In this scenario, if the raw material is higher in terms of price, then the prices will increase across the economy, and which will directly hit the growth rates. Now all of these would be a direct impact that we would be able to see internally in any developing economy. But when we are talking about the global scenario, we will also see a shift in geopolitical context where there will be more geopolitical exposure, especially for the countries where there is decline, but the decline is low. So the power will concentrate in such countries. For example, Middle East, for example, Russia, and then the power that comes with the supply will be used for new geopolitical games across the global order. Then also we also get to see that public services will be at risk internally. How? If the government has to pay more for oil because there's a sharp decline, then the investment that they make in health, education, infra, that would be compromised. If the government has 100 rupees and as of now they are paying 20 rupees for the oil and 80 rupees is for the investment, but the cost from 20 goes to 50, now the cost that they are using as investment would automatically decline. And all of this fits very well with the situation that India is also going to face if this investment is not sided with the steep decline that we are seeing in terms of oil and gas field reserves. Now let us talk about India directly, that what makes India vulnerable in this scenario and what are the key factors that we need to understand. So the first key factor is definitely the fact that India imports more than 80% of its crude oil needs and 45% of natural gas, and this dependency has been increasing. When you see 88% in the present year, and if you talk about crude oil dependency as compared to 2023, 2024 has seen an increase, and so does the natural gas. And this leads to an energy import bill of almost $160 billion per year as per the financial year of 2024-25. So if this number increases, then our import cost is also going to increase. That means we would have to pay more. Forex reserves would be taking a hit. When our dependence is one of the highest in the world, oil that remains a geopolitical tool in today's date, India remains vulnerable in that particular context. This is not just applicable to India, where the buffers are very thin for developing economies because they have to manage the developing needs. At the same time, they have to manage the supply shocks and the global order. Their buffers are thin. In such situation, oil can actually play a major role which needs to be addressed well in time. So other than that, we are also saying in the context of India that the strategic petroleum reserves, even though maintained very well and they are being increased also, there are upcoming sites in Odisha and Karnataka. We are still just covering 8 to 9 days of demand, whereas countries like US have kept reserves for almost 290 days. And we cannot let go of the fact that the energy demand is going to keep increasing in coming times because we are a rapidly growing economy. Energy remains the main lifeline of the growth that we expect. That means we will be exposed to the global shocks as well. At any given moment, if there is any sort of delay in terms of upstream projects that are upcoming, or the shipping routes that we are seeing. For example, if we talk about Strait of Malacca, it is one of the most important trade routes for India. If we talk about the Suez Canal, all these straits remain very important, and if anything goes wrong, it will further tighten the supplies and also increase the prices. So all these contexts make this report like a reminder for developing economies and especially for India that it is time to address the resources, to address and understand the risk and be prepared. Now let us move ahead and understand that basically how India is getting ready to respond to the risk that lies in front of them. India has already started diversification of supply. Their sources have already increased multiple folds. Apart from that, we have already reduced West Asia shares less than 45%, which used to be more than 60% earlier. We are buying oil from not just Russia, US, Africa, Latin America. All the possible diversification of supply has already been done. We are focusing on strategic reserves and their expansion as well. And the key thrust has been placed on domestic exploration and production, where 99%, if you talk about, of the shores which were initially a no-go areas, they have been opened for bids. That means domestic production is being focused on. Other than that, National Deep Water Mission, in this particular context, acreage has been seen of 0.5 million square kilometer, that will be by end of this year, and 1 million by 2030 will be seen. Incentives have been given to private and foreign participation so that the exploration as well as the production part gets enhanced and we are able to stand on our own, especially in context of energy resources in the coming time. And the biggest help that India can get, and India is taking that is coming in form of renewable energy sources. So the renewable energy capacity which comes from non-fossil fuels has been increased to almost 250 gigawatts. We see a huge solar boom as compared to 2.8 gigawatt in 2014. If we talk about 2025, it is going more than 110 gigawatts, which is coming solely from solar energy. There is a renewed thrust on hydro energy, wind energy, and also the mission, that is green hydrogen mission. I have talked about this mission in detail in this given video. You can go and watch that. So when we talk about huge allocations and a target of 5 million metric ton per year by 2030 and also becoming one of the global suppliers by end of this decade has been targeted. There is a renewed focus on biofuels as well, where 20% ethanol blending is advanced in front of us, which is currently around 18.5. Clean energy will not only reduce our import dependence, it will also cut our emissions and address the issue of supply, that too internally. But the whole idea here is to maintain balance, keep focusing on sustaining the upstream oil, gas and field reserves, because that is where our main focus lies. If there is a dip, we will be exposed to multiple vulnerabilities and that might take us off the trajectory we are following in terms of growth. Now that was all from my side. Thank you so much.